Hello and welcome everyone to Caring for the Sewage. Big question is, where does it all go when you flush the loo? Especially considering here in Port, physically where does it go, and even more importantly, where does it all get released to after it's treated? This video is going to run you through the main ideas behind sewage treatment, referred to the physical and the biological chemical treatment of effluent. And by the end of today, I want you to be able to go through, outline the primary and the secondary stages of sewage treatment so that you can summarize your information as a flowchart, giving me all of the steps in sewage treatment. So if you live in Port or you drive around, or like me, you have to drive past this place every afternoon, you will know where it is. Koala Street, adjacent. Just going to leave that there for you. And it looks a little bit like this, and when I drive past, it's either still like that or I can see all of the tanks are churning, and depending on what's happening there, it stinks or it smells, bad, but not terrible. So looking at what's happening as I drive past, we want to try and figure out here what are the stages in the water treatment of effluent and where does it go? Alright, first a little background in the area. Now the whole sewage works here in Port Macquarie and the surrounding area uses 76 pumping stations and has the capacity to treat the raw sewage equivalent generated by 52,000 toilets. So the big question is, how does it do that? Little screen grab here from the council website, and I'm not going to read it to you, but the biggest thing here to probably take away is the particular method used in Port Macquarie is called activated sludge, which I just think is probably the most accurate name. It's a very simple system because it's essentially a process of repeating aeration, which is what you can see as you drive past if all of the tanks are bubbling, settling, they decant, and they remove the sludge from the bottom. And it's all carried out in those single large tanks instead of having a separate vessel for each. When you have a sec, do read through the rest of that and we'll move on to the proper flow chart in a sec. So this is a screenshot again from the KISS notes. I'll put a reference in the back if you want to find where it came from. And just drawing your attention to again here, the body of this process is the activated sludge method. Sewage is alternately aerated and then allowed to settle. What we're going to do next is break this into sections and really get back to stages, primary, secondary and tertiary, and figure out how it needs to be in that order. So number one, the first stage of sewage treatment is called primary treatment, or the primary stage. The primary treatment stage is concerned with the removal of solids. We can break that down into small and large. So large particles, you're probably talking about toilet paper and anything else that gets flushed. Whereas smaller particles are what you would probably think about as sediments and the detritus, the human waste that would end up in bits and pieces as it comes down the sewage pipe. Coming back to our flowchart here, primary treatment is this section up to here. You'll often see a mesh screen or grates to remove any of the large particles first, so getting rid of all of those toilet paper bits and pieces, plastic twigs, rocks, anything else that ended up in the process. And to get rid of those smaller sized particles, you're looking at a process of sedimentation. Which I imagine to look like a giant version of this. And number two, sedimentation, just sitting the water and allowing it time to settle so all the particles fall to the bottom. This will happen in those large tanks. You see, they're called clarifiers, and the sludge is continuously removed from the bottom, and the top scum is continuously skimmed off the surface, so you end up with all of those particles dropping out. Next, secondary treatment. Not solids this time, we're concerned with treating biological matter, so bacteria or anything organic. Organic matter, there you go. So you might think, how is it treated? And it's actually a very easy answer. Just by bubbling air through it, which is called aeration. What that actually does is the oxygen, because of its particular chemistry, really attacks the bacteria and it causes them to decay and it rots all of the organic matter away. So it might stink, but it is getting rid of all of that stuff. Now, like we said before, this is the activated sludge part of it. All they're doing is holding it in one of those holding tanks, aerating it, and then letting it sink and sediment, and then they aerate it again, and then they let it sink and sediment down to the bottom. And this process just kills all of that bacteria. It causes everything else to rot, and it sinks down to the bottom, separating all the solid waste off again from the bottom and decanting the liquid off from the top. Other types of treatment, apart from aeration, include chlorination, which adds in this chemical which actually goes to town on the bacteria, killing them. Or a cheaper method, what we do in Port Macquarie, we use UV radiation. That means we just put all of that treated water out into ponds where it sits under the sun, and that causes another level of disinfection. And those are the ponds you'll see on the corner of Ocean Drive and Lake Road, the traffic lights there. Now we are talking about secondary. Secondary is after biological treatment. All the way from this activated sludge process through to final treatment with UV lamps. Off the side here we're producing sludge. All of that is to do with getting rid of the biological matter, the organic matter, the bacteria inside of that effluent. And that's it. At least in Port Macquarie there is only primary and secondary treatment. Some water is pumped down to the reclaimed water treatment plant, which is further down Ocean Drive back towards town, but most of it is just let go into Coolabung Creek there. So really, to recap, we've got the primary, which is to dealing with all of the solids that are coming out, and we have secondary, which is dealing with all of the biological matter, bacteria and stuff inside of the sewage. So what you need to do now, go back, rewind this video, pause it in each particular place and make yourself some notes so that you are really comfortable with the idea of the stages. 2 stages, primary and secondary. Under each subheading, really make sure you've got good notes on how primary is taking care of the physical, how they remove the solid waste from the sewage, and how secondary is taking care of all of the biological matter by using chemical treatment. Maybe as you go down your page, you could have the subheadings there for primary and secondary, make your notes, but then really importantly, you need to present this information as a flowchart, summarising the steps in the forms of sewage treatment. So maybe on the right hand side of the page, you could draw a flowchart down there, just like the one we've been using from this video. So go back, rewind this video, pause it, and copy that out as well. Make sure you're familiar. When we see each other next time, we'll have some questions on this. We'll be going through this in class and really using this as your note-taking time, so in class we can focus on doing all of the practice paper questions. Good job, everyone. Thank you.